impressions of the new indoor complex and how much that's going to help y'all?
Efficiency is tremendous. I mean, you can actually get a full practice in. I mean, even when you used to go inside and you have a normal field, you can't get the full effect because you don't have enough space for individual. When you're doing multiple drills, 2 or 3 spot drills, and have the room to actually do them. You could do them before, but they were modified because of room and space in it. It gives you a very, very effective workspace, and it worked out just like we designed it and thought of it, and I wanted it that long. I mean, to be able to do that inside and was tremendous.
You had mentioned at SEC Media Days you might announce in terms of your defensive staff or staff overall in terms of going into camp.
Yeah, Joe Schaefer will be the guy that replaces Coach Price on our defensive staff. Joe is a guy who was actually he was the defensive coordinator at Youngstown State to come here as an off-the-field guy and to get into this level and do things, and has done a great job for us in the off-the-field stuff and great knowledge of the defense and what goes on, and done a really good job with our guys.
Down front right.
I say that Elijah will take the whole front, and Elijah also is assistant head coach and co-defensive coordinator. And Schaefer will work nickels, dimes, and he can work the ends on certain things, but work a lot of nickel, dime stuff. It's going to allow us in some different things in that regard.
Cool.
Jimbo, last year it felt like that there was a level of expectation risen with the wide receivers, with Evan and Noah making strides. Do you feel the same way going into this camp with having Raymond and Micah as early enrollees?
Well, yeah, I mean, but I've been so far. I'll be honest with you, I've been pleased for the most part of our receivers in the first 4 or 5 days of camp. The experience is showing, and their knowledge. The older guys, Nice, I think, is having a really good camp. That Moose is doing a really good job. And the young guys, you can see a big difference in Noah, Evan, and those guys from a educational standpoint of how to run routes, how to do things, reading coverages, and because the older guys are doing it, and those guys have been very productive. They've done a really good job of developing, and Tees and Cottrell and those guys coming in. Jade, I've been extremely happy with his progress and what he's done. He's brought a lot of life and juice and ability to that position.
And then just quick follow-up, how do you feel about the tight end position with Jake and Donovan improving?
Good. I mean, Jake is really developing well. Donovan he got banged up at the end of spring, is coming off that injury very well. Theo is really developed. Max, of course, Max is steady Ed, does everything right, does all those things. Guards has been very productive, and Jaden Platt's going to be a really good player. Really like Jaden's ability to do things as they keep growing, but I think has a chance to be a really good player.
Second row on the right, Christy.
What are the qualities that Bobby Petrino has that made you want him on your staff, and how do you think he will help your team this year?
We've been very productive as a head coach, as an offensive coordinator, and also philosophically, a lot of the things he believes and how he looks at the game and the way we did. Like I said, we've known each other a long time. And studied each other's film a long time. Schemes, schematics, run game, and he has balance. It's not just all throw, it's not just all pass. It's a balanced attack that attacks and can use different weapons and has done it in times. He's had great tight ends, he's used he had great backs, very similar in philosophical nature, and a very proven guy who has a great mind for the game and does a great job teaching and getting great production. I've always had a lot of respect for him, even we've been known each other for a long time.
Down front, Travis.
2 questions. First, when did you know Jalen Preston wasn't going to be with the squad this year?
In the summer.
And then I know there's a lot of conversation around the country about college athletes and sports gambling. What is some of the approaches y'all are taking to educate?
We just brought in a speaker last night to educate them on how you can get sucked into it, how people can do, and the social media. How they're marked guys. People know who they are. Exposing guys, putting guys in compromising positions to get control of them, to do things. And also, you got to remember, a lot of our guys, you got to remember, you can't, we in gambling, with all the sports fantasy leagues and all that stuff, these kids can do those things in high school. They've done them their whole life, and they have an app on their phone. The accessibility to gambling is a very scary thing because it becomes addicting, it becomes competitive, and they don't think it's a big deal because I'm gambling on this, I'm gambling on that, and the things that goes on, and we suck them in as a society, and then how they can use it, and then they can get exposed because of, I know they use the social media world because everyone knows where they're at, what they're doing because they're telling everybody. Every quote, what they say, they get in a compromise. That's what gamblers look for, to get you in a compromising position, to get leverage on you, to get you to do something. We had a great speaker last night on that whole fact that we spent a lot of time on gambling and just other issues of getting caught doing the wrong things, wrong places, how you act, and how people can take advantage of you. Because the kids, as smart and as mature as we think they are, they're extremely naive to people taking advantage of their celebrity status and who they are, and know who they are and what they are because they're on social media So every mark of every day, they're not hard to find, and set those things up on kids. And kids are very vulnerable right now. We had a huge speaker on that last night, and brought up the exact same topic. Went for an hour and a half last night. It was a great session. Kids were asking questions, doing everything. So we're trying to be preventive and try to stop them from getting in compromising positions. You know what I mean? If that ever happens, you got to come tell somebody.
Second row left, Olin, and then to the right, David.
I got a couple things, Jimbo. First of all, what are some of the things that you can do differently in practice this year, or where you can do you put some of extra time at some places that maybe in the past?
Well, in the practice of what the drills you do, the things you do, how you incorporate team drills, how you incorporate individual drills, and you're able to bounce a lot more. I mean, whether you're on the offensive field, defensive field at different sections, special, which I'm always a specialty, which I've always been, and all the meetings, which I'm always have been, offense, defense, special teams. So, I mean, just your emphasis in your time constraint, knowing that if you leave over here, that's going to be taken care of, and you can work back in different areas and spend time on areas of need. That's just what you see on film. It's why we watch film together every day, and there's some emphasis there. And when the head coach is at a drill and there's a part that needs emphasized, that says that's very important. So sometimes that even gives kids greater urgency to execute and do the things you got to do. So you're able to communicate with a lot greater group of guys.
And I wanted to just ask you, looking back at last year, did you play more freshmen than you wanted to, or were you playing so many freshmen because you needed to?
It was a compromise. Some they were the best athletes. Some it was you had injuries and you had to. And then, like you say, it's like Connor. You bring Connor in a situation when he's ready for a situation. You want to bring all freshmen when they're ready, because what you never want to destroy in an athlete's confidence. You never want to put him in a compromising position. You say, well, he's got ability, but is he ready to play? And just because he's athletic doesn't mean he can play well. Just because he plays well doesn't mean he can play winning football. There's a difference. And you want to put those guys at those points when you feel they're ready, and watch them by the consistency in which they play. Just because a guy does something, goes back to that philosophy. You don't practice it till you do it right. You practice till you can't do it wrong. And there's guys who can make plays. There's guys on the street that can make plays. But how many times in a row can they do it? Can they do it when they're tired? Can they do it in the fourth quarter? Can they do it in the biggest moments? Can they do it and understand that the momentum changes in the game, and where you have to really execute on every – you want to execute on every job, but understanding how to change the momentum of games. And so when you put a freshman in, has nothing to do with his ability. But no, if you're forced to, you're forced to. If you want to put them where you think they can handle the situation, because when they fail, it ain't failing like it used to be 30 years ago. They get destroyed. They get destroyed by y'all. They get destroyed by social media. They get destroyed by the fans. And whether you think that affects them or not, it does. It drastically does. And what they read about themselves, because that's their world today. So you can destroy a young player much faster than you can make him, and you got to be very careful. So you're talking about playing freshmen. You want to play them when you think they're ready to handle what you're asking them to handle. That still allows you to win the game.
Second row right, David, and then to the left, Carter.
Jimbo, anything stand out about the linebackers in particular so far?
Yeah, I'm very pleased. The downhill progression, the way they're fitting the runs, the aggression, the consistency in which they're playing with, the angles in which they're taking, and how they're fitting things. I've really been impressed. They've done a really good job.
On Friday, there were a lot of moving parts in college football conference realignment. Can you just give us your thoughts on the direction it's going?
It's inevitable. I mean, what thoughts? You tell me your thoughts. Nobody likes it because it's too strung out. I mean, like you say, like I heard an argument today. How about the kids? How about the travel? How about the volleyball team, the baseball team, the soccer team, the gymnastics team, the travel? I mean, you're talking about 3,000 miles in that league, and others it's still significant. That's one of the things about the SEC I like. We're still within our footprint, which I think makes it a lot easier on the kids. But in hindsight, I'm not saying I like it either, but I understand the administrative point of it, that if you get left out of it, from a financial standpoint, you can become insignificant. I get both worlds of it, and that's you got to be careful what you create as the monster you create in college athletics. And like I say, I think, is it a perfect world? No, but it's inevitable. Change is inevitable. It's going to keep happening. So, hey, we got to lock in. I'm going to coach football. I mean, at the end of the day, it's what you can do. And there's a lot of things that are bad about it, but I also see the other point. If you're an administrator and you're left out of one of those conferences, what do you do? Where does athletics and people don't know, well, what's athletics to a school? The growth of a school? Athletics is huge. The branding, the marketing, look at numbers when you have good years and things in your athletic departments, the number of applicants to your schools. I mean, it is a significant part of every university. And unfortunately, we're in a time now that everybody's fighting over the dollar.
Third row left, Carter, and then Christie.
Jimbo, what do you think will be the biggest difference between DJ Durkin's defense last year and this year as far as players being more comfortable
Well, I think one, they'll know the calls better, they're the experience, and I think our health and leadership. I mean, keeping McKinley and keeping guys like McKinley and Isaiah and Shamar Turner and Shamar Stewart and LT and Diggs and keeping those guys healthy. I mean, you lost some of those guys. The linebackers healthy, the secondary is healthy. Keeping healthy guys that having experience that have played a lot and understanding how to play that way and do things, and also the familiarity of how he coaches, how he teaches, and the things in which we want. I mean, and what we do. And I think it'll make a significant difference. That's what the plan is.
Second row right, Christy.
I was wondering, is it last season was only the second time in your career where you've had a losing season? And I wonder, when you're coming off of a year like that, that's disappointing, do you approach things any differently going into the new year?
No, you evaluate them, what went wrong, and know why it went wrong, and why it went right. I mean, it's like repeating a successful year. You're trying to repeat a successful year. Now you're trying to fix. It goes back to the whys. The whys of why it didn't work, why it didn't happen, and can it happen? Is it scheme? Is it players? Is it coaching? Is it? I mean, and it's an effect of all those things and how you can coach a guy. Learning to coach a guy, doing things, how you can present it different, how you can help him better. Because no players make mistakes on purpose. No coaches coach it wrong on purpose. But you got to understand, like I said, getting to know guys, understand guys, and put guys in position to be successful and what they can and can't handle, and based off the situations of the game. So, I mean, you're always in that. Whether the amount of evaluation and time when you're successful, it's just as extensive when it's not successful. I mean, it really is. The amount of time does not change. The amount of speculation, the amount of questioning, the amount of, is there a better way to do it? Is somebody else doing it better? Are we doing it the right way? How we teach it? I mean, people act like that is a very intricate and long-standing thing that goes on for whole offseason, 6-7 months at a time, all the time.
As a quick follow-up, when you talk about the whys, can you boil down the why?
I can, yeah, and I'm not going to say them, but at the same time, we know why we think it is, and that's the key to anything. Even if you have success, I mean, like I tell kids sometimes when they have success and they make a good play, and you say, and they'll say, well, man, sometimes they can't tell you why it happened. It's also important to educate them then so they can repeat it, because sports is a game of repetition. It's not a game of ability. It's a game of ability based on how many times you can repeat something correctly, and that's getting guys to understand why they do it right and why they do it wrong.